Welcome to the Well Off Podcast, where the goal is to motivate, inspire, and share success principles. I'm your host, George Almasri. Zack Brittain is a real estate agent, investor, and business owner in the Waterloo region. He's passionate about investing and loves helping clients succeed. And on this episode, we discuss how his mother introduced him to the Wealthy Barber book, how he became a successful realtor and real estate investor in his 20s, if duplex deals in Waterloo still make sense, and the challenges he's faced over the last few years as an investor. Hope you guys will enjoy the episode. Make sure to leave us a review. I always ask for that, and share this with a friend or family member. Let's get the word out there. Let's get more people to listen to this good content, because I think people can use more inspiration during difficult times, or times when rates are a little bit higher. It's a little bit less enticing for certain investors, but you can see people like Zack are doing well, and there's always an opportunity to succeed in any market. So if you want to connect with me, you want to discuss some multi-unit opportunities, you can go to www.welloff.ca and you can book a call there, or you can connect with me on Instagram, welloffx. Send me a message. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to see what you're going through, your successes. Share something with me, and we'll take it from there. Enjoy the episode. I'm here with Zack Brittain. Thank you for coming by today.
Thanks for having me. Nice to be in Vaughan, baby.
Oh, yeah. I always start off by asking about your childhood. So where'd you grow up? Tell me a couple things that you remember.
Born in Credit Valley in Mississauga. Moved to the States for like 4 years. Parents moved back, wanted to be closer to home. Landed in Kitchener because my dad's parents were there at the time, and then grew up in Kitchener. So all the school in Kitchener, grade school, middle school, high school. When I first got in the business, this is hilarious. When I first got in the business of real estate, I was like, oh, I should know what the good schools are. And growing up as a local, you kind of know, right? You have an idea, but I was like, let's look at the test scores. All the schools I went to were bottom 5 percentile for all this. And I like two middle class working parents, like mom and dad did okay, but it was just like, we live downtown, and downtown Kitchener was like that. After I did uni, I did college for a couple years, studied a semester abroad after, wanted to get into business. And then did economics and finance at Guelph, their business program. I enjoyed it, but wasn't getting the looks in finance or in banking. Started banking like a low-level entry job, fresh out of school. And then my now business partner, Matt, said, hey, Zack, want to get into real estate? I kind of said no first, and then he convinced me after a couple of beers to go meet with his boss and talked my way into a job and got into real estate on a whim, and away we go.
You're talking about real estate sales, like you became a realtor.
Yes. Yeah. And so like, I didn't know I was going to be a stock guy. I still am. Don't get me wrong. Got a portfolio. I follow that. I enjoy it. I think it's another good avenue for me, but I never thought I'd get in sales. Never thought I would be a real estate investor either. That wasn't something that I was thinking about at all. Never on my radar.
Yeah. Okay, so first of all, I want to ask you, why did your parents move to the States, just out of curiosity?
So my dad worked for a software company in Mississauga, and they basically gave him a job offer to go down to the States, and then he would be basically regional sales. So we moved to a suburb outside of Fort Worth for 3-4 years. And I mean, when I'm 3-4, I can still remember the house, but you're so little. We moved back when my sister was ready to go to grade 1. That was kind of we're going to go to school in Canada.
Yeah. All right. How old were you when you got into real estate, as a realtor?
I was 24 when I graduated university. By the time my 25th birthday hit, I had my license. I'd worked in banking for 4 to 6 months, quit that on 3 days notice because the team lead that was going to hire me was like, okay, see you Monday. I basically just called him and convinced him to kind of hire me. He didn't really want to, but I was like, I'm done with the job I already have. I don't want to do that anymore. This guy was a young killer hustler. He sold 80 units the year before. I was like, I'm doing math. And this was 7 years ago. Prices weren't what they were now, but I'm still doing the math real quick. And I was like, if I even do a fraction of that, I'm feeling a lot better about myself. And so by 25, I was licensed. Then that was my first few months in the business.
Yeah. So what was that like for you, being 25? And you said before we started recording that you did really well when you started, right?
False, actually. First year, huge disappointment personally. Fell flat on my face. And I had all the training, had all the opportunity. I think I set really unrealistic goals because I was in an environment that really encouraged, push yourself, which is good. But I set really unrealistic goals and missed hard.
What were they, if you don't mind sharing?
Oh, I was going to come out and make $250 my first year.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm doing the math. I was like, yeah, with the amount of time that I'm putting in the business, like, you know, I didn't have kids and I was living in a cheap apartment. I had a cheap car. I had a cheap cell phone plan. Like I was living lean. And I was like, yeah, I'm doing the math. I could probably do about 250. It's X amount of transactions. This is as many a month. We had it all broken down, right? The team lead was helping us. They're coaching us, had everything, but just like, I wasn't like a hard close kind of sales guy. I was much more like, no, I'm comfortable letting people make their own decisions, and I'm comfortable, you know, really not pushing and squeezing, just get every last single deal out just so I can sell more. And that works for some people. It just didn't work for me. And, you know, you start getting burnt out because results aren't coming in as quickly as they are. And you really just kind of got to take a deep breath and be like, hey, you're going to be in the business for like 10, 15 years. Sometimes you have a good first year. Sometimes it takes 5 or 10 before you really start making the bank.
Yeah.
And then so it was just like, take a step back, just learn something a little bit new every year, set more realistic goals, and maybe don't be as hard on yourself. And then, you know, by year 3 or 4, you know, we really started cooking.
This almost the same thing happened to me when I got started, because I don't know if you remember the books that you had when you got your license, like the books you had to study to do your exams. So in one of the books, it had broken down like how many cold calls you had to make to get a deal done. And it was that in the real estate books, or was that in the, like, because I started at Keller Williams. That was the first brokerage I worked for, and I know like Millionaire Real Estate Agent, Millionaire Real Estate Investor, they had a lot of that, and some of like the training modules I did as well had that stuff. And I was like, first off, I started 6 months cold calling straight. Yeah, me too.
For anybody out there that thinks like, hey, you know, these guys are starting to do well, it's like, I've called some people.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I remember saying, hey, if I make this many calls, it's going to take me this long. And if I do this many open houses, if I have this many new buyer appointments, this many listing appointments, and the cookie should crumble. And I crumbled instead.
Same exact thing happened to me. So I tried to like follow the book and make that many calls in a week so that it translates to deals, and it didn't. I only sold one house in my first year. So like to me, it was the exact same thing. I was just so deflated after doing that.
It is. But like in your 20s, it's easier to be deflated. Like part of me understands why people don't take these types of risks when they're in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. Like you got a family, you got a mortgage, like you may think you don't have that much time, but honestly, I think it's riskier not to take those chances.
Well, when you're in your 30s, 40s, generally you've had another career. So you have a network, and a lot of the people that you have relationships with are going to move at some point. So it's a little easier when you're 22, 23, and you're just getting in. Like none of your friends are really buying at that age.
And I looked like I was 25. You know, there was a couple guys in my office around the same age. I'm like, oh, you clean up well, but you look like you're in your 30s. You're a mature, woman or gentleman, right? And me, I'm like going into a 50-year-old's place who's selling their place to retire, move down to the States or out to cottage country, and they see me.
Yeah.
It's like, who's this kid?
So you said that you never really thought about owning real estate, being involved in that. So how did that happen? How did you become an investor?
So shout out to my mom. I moved out of the house like right after my 18th birthday, and I moved to Calgary for a year. I knew I was going to go to business school. I'd applied to some colleges and unis, got in on some of them, but like didn't have an idea of what I wanted to do. I had some cousins that lived out west in Calgary that were going to put me up. I could rent a room from them on the cheap, and I was just going to work for a year. I was going to work and snowboard for a year, work in the big city, just be an independent adult, and then come back and go to school. And my mom, I was never a big reader. I hated reading. I maybe read like 5 books by the time I graduated high school, and she gave me The Wealthy Barber. And this is like right as smartphones are starting to become a thing. Like I didn't even have internet on my phone at the time. So like I would read on the bus when I was going around the city. I didn't have a car. And she gave me The Wealthy Barber, and it was all about like saving your money, living within your means, compound interest, simple stuff. And that kind of turned on the investor light where I was like, oh, I could make like a regular salary, but actually be a multimillionaire if I just didn't spend my money like a dumbass and just invested it consistently.
Yeah.
Like I was an 18-year-old kid. Like most 18-year-olds didn't really think of that. And you don't have like YouTube on your smartphone where you can watch influencers and investors just giving you hot tips all the time. And so that was like, oh, investing is actually a thing. That's kind of neat. And when I moved back from Calgary, my parents had bought 2 student rentals, and they moved out of the family home that we grew up in. And I was like, well, instead of you guys selling the old family home, like, why don't me and my friends just rent it? I'm going to need a spot to stay to go to college. And so I ended up renting that house with my now real estate partner, Matt. And at the time, he was one of the only guys he was a contractor. He had gone to some apprenticeship programs. He was making good money, and he was thinking about buying property. And then fast forward 4 years later, when I'm done university, him and another buddy had already bought their first place. And he was thinking about getting into real estate sales so that he could buy his own flips.
Yeah.
And that was going to be his business.
Yeah.
He stumbles upon this other guy who's building this real estate team, and holy shit, hey, Zach, why don't you get on board? You know, this guy knows what he's doing. He's going to train us. There's a ton of money on the table. Let's do this. And then boom, just started selling. Once I started to have enough money from selling to invest, started investing.
That's pretty ironic, because if you mention that to like somebody who has kind of traditional thinking, they would say, well, that guy that went to university is going to be better off. But really, your friend Matt, who I don't know if he did go to university or like a college program or something, or an apprenticeship of some sort, but he probably set himself up to have a better future by investing in real estate really early compared to most people, right?
Like, I wish I'd kind of done in reverse. I wish I would have like fallen on my face in business and the real world right out of high school for 10 years and then gone back to school if I hadn't figured it out. It's easier said than done. There's a lot that happens and changes in your 20s and your early 30s. It's a big transition part of your life. Relationships work out, they don't work out. Kids, mortgages, you're moving all over for work, for family, for relationships. And there's a lot of instability. And I think that, first off, Matt knew school wasn't for him by the time he started high school. That was not his thing. So he knew he was going to work, and he just happened to like want to work hard and want to do things with that money. And I think like, yeah, that helped him a lot. And for me, it helped me figure out what wasn't for me. And I just got lucky by finding real estate and then really enjoying it. And then just figuring out, okay, I could really leverage my time and the money I make from selling to put myself ahead in investing.
Yeah, yeah. That's really cool. And then you guys are still working together now, you and Matt, right?
So I traveled Europe with a friend of his before I went to uni, come back, and he's like, yeah, my buddy Matt needs a spot. First time I'd like formally met him. I'd met him through friends of friends in high school, but first time like we really met, I was giving him a tour of my parents' old house that I was renting, and it was like $350 for a bedroom a month. He's like, yeah, I'll take it. And then, you know, best buddies for about 10 years now. And then he's the one that said, hey, I think you'd be a good fit. Like he was learning about disc profiles.
Yeah.
And he's like, Zach, I know what kind of disc profile he is. He's an I. He might actually be able to sell. I obviously didn't know this at the time. He's probably thinking in the back of his head, I should bring him on board. He'd crush this. So he convinced me to get an interview with his team lead and then started selling full time.
Cool. So at what point did you start owning real estate yourself as an investor?
First house I ever bought, investment property. So my wife and I were living in Etobicoke because she was doing a master's in downtown Toronto. And then I was selling full time, living in Etobicoke, you know, staying at my mom's or my sister's if I had a couple busy days in a row in Kitchener. And I was like, look, like I can't be commuting all the time. Like we need some sort of base in Kitchener. And my 2 years of sales wasn't up yet. So I had to get a co-signer for my first property, but I had enough cash for the down payment and I had enough cash. I wanted to get a duplex or a triplex. And I was going on a hunting trip with one of my other business partners, and Matt calls me. He's like, hey, I got a spot. If you don't buy this, I'm going to buy it. I was like, oh, shit. I'm like, I'm out of Canadian Tire. I'm leaving at 6 a.m. It might have been like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. By 6:30, I'm in the dining room negotiating the deal to buy this place.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so it was a piece of junk bungalow. It smelled like cats and dogs. Money location. Perfect lot. And I got like $25K under asking price in a super hot market in like 2018. And I knew some of my clients and Matt and some of his guys had done duplex conversions before. And this was right as they were starting to get some traction in KW. And the numbers just made so much sense. I was like, even if I botch the renos, because I have no renovation experience at this time, even if I completely botch them, I'm making money on this deal. Okay, screw it. Got to start somewhere. Did the quick math because I'd already kind of knew what the numbers were like before. I'd been shopping them for about a month or two. And picked that one up. Yeah, closed on it. In I think 35 days. My wife didn't even see it. She saw it like a week before we closed on it.
Yep.
I remember I called her on the way up to go to the hunting cabin and be like, hey, like we don't get cell reception up there, but I just got the offer back. We bought a house. And she's like, what? I'm like, yeah. I was telling you we were putting an offer in last night. And she's like, but you actually bought it? I was like, yeah.
At least you knew about the offer.
Right? Yeah, it's true. I was like, hey, we're putting an offer on this house. You got to sign this offer for me. Yeah. Right? And so her folks actually co-signed for it. And then I had a little bit of money to start the renos as the duplex conversion process. And then as that money started to peel down, got a private loan from a family member. And then once the property is done, refinanced it right away. And the value of the properties were just going up so quickly at that time. I had more than enough money to pay off the loan I took to finish the renos, and then had like a lot left over to go buy another. And then that was just boom, boom, boom.
So you had a perfect burr.
Yeah. And like, yeah.
Yeah, which was a lot easier to do when the market was appreciating 30% a year or whatever. Now
We're going up like 10 to 15K a month at that time. So the project takes me 6 months from closing to refi getting started. And I'm taking it from a 4 out of 10 cat pee smelling house to a 10 out of 10 brand new legal duplex. Great location, all the features you need. Did okay.
Yeah, that's cool. What was the process from there? Did you continue doing duplexes? Did you shift to something different?
Good question. So the duplexing this was before ADUs started coming in. The duplex conversions were still so money.
ADUs, just in case someone doesn't know, additional dwelling unit.
Yeah. So garden suites. The duplex conversions were still just so money. You could get our market in KW, lots of bungalows, lots of side splits, lots of back splits, and they're all brick built, for the most part, brick builds, nice frontage because it's kind of in those midtown locations. And like German and Dutch developers built the midtown of our entire city, the downtowns as well, but the midtowns are where a lot of these are done. And like you could get a junker property and the renovation costs weren't astronomical yet. The numbers just still worked so good. So we were doing, anywhere from 3 to 6 of those a year between ourselves, whether we were JVing them, whether we were doing them with clients or for clients. And then we just kept doing those until we had like a fourplex just fall in our lap. And then we had a triplex kind of fall into our lap. We were always watching those deals, but the numbers just weren't as sexy as we wanted them to be. And we needed those burrs to keep our cash coming back in our hands for the down payments to keep buying more.
Yep.
And that's why they were so attractive. We could get residential A financing because it's a house. The refis looked good because I'm getting 2 brand new tenants paying current market rents for them. And as long as we didn't, completely crush our renovation budget, like it was fairly simplistic to manage those. So you could have 1, maybe 2 of those going on at the same time while we were selling full time. That's kind of what we did for about 2 or 3 years after we got our first few.
Cool. So you got a whole bunch of those done.
Yep.
And this brings you to what year now? What are we talking, like 2021 roughly?
Probably 2020. And then 2020 to 21, we did maybe a couple of the duplex conversions, but that's when we're doing more triplex, fourplex. Okay. Because we could still get residential A financing, and that was still really juicy at the time. And we said, okay, well, we got the cash to make the acquisitions. And those properties, just the opportunities we got a vacant triplex downtown Kitchener. And it was mint condition in like the East Ward, which is like one of the better spots for primary residents and for kind of investors. And then another one in the East Ward as well, downtown Kitchener, a 4-unit property that broke even as is at purchase. And we're like, okay, you're buying them anywhere between 800 and 900K at that time. So, okay, there's a lot of our extra cash kind of getting soaked up. And at that time, price growth kind of slowed down a little bit. So the burrs, we weren't getting huge piles of cash back from them. Okay, cash piles are now invested.
Yeah.
So we got to the point where we had a handful of duplexes, a couple triplexes, a couple fourplexes, and then a few renovation projects on the go. Okay, all of our cash is out. And then leading up to 2021, we were pretty much wrapping up all of our projects as interest rates are starting to come up. And that's kind of where we're at now.
Sure. Okay, so just to kind of recap, you were focusing duplexes and then went into triplexes, fourplexes. Looking back now, do you think that was the right thing to do at that point? Because sometimes, people talk about like getting into bigger projects, but when you're starting out, you want to have that quick turnover so you can get your cash back, so you can reinvest it. And when you are investing in larger projects, sometimes the turnover is a little slower.
Absolutely. I think had I done that investing part over again, do the smaller projects like we did, but jump into the bigger stuff quicker. I think a big mistake that we might have made is didn't get into the bigger deals quicker, because the quicker we do that, the quicker we learn. I'm a big learn by doing guy. I'm really simple in the sense of if I can kind of understand it on a napkin in like plain English, if I can describe it to a 5-year-old, then I'm interested because I hate complicated investments. That's why I like real estate. Very simple. I buy it for $1, I sell it for $2. And then I just understand how to get it from $1 to $2, right? As I'm oversimplifying, but I think like for my short-term growth, exactly what we did made a ton of sense. But had we kind of looked 10 years down the line, we would have realized that we would have had to jump into commercial financing and commercial size projects a lot quicker. And the reason why we didn't was when we were setting up our corporate structure, we went to the bank that we were working directly with and said, hey, here's what we're thinking about doing. Here's the next 2 to 3 years of our investing. Does this make sense? They said yes. Bah, sweet. Set it all up, got our corporate structure, got a few more properties under our belt, and then we go back to them for more lending. They're like, no, we're not giving you lending anymore. Here's why. Our policies have changed or whatever. They gave us a bullshit excuse. And so we'd set up kind of our business to continue to do those 5 units or less because we were told we were going to get all this lending, and then they reneged on it. And so now we had all those properties. We couldn't get more of that size from them. And so now our investment model has to change up. So I think maybe doing 60% of the smaller stuff that we did. The duplex conversions were great. They still do make sense for some investors. The triplex, the fourplex burrs, we got some really good deals at the right time for those. But I think maybe jumping into that 6, 10, 20 unit properties, or maybe some commercial mixed use, maybe a year or two ago. Maybe not with the interest rates now, but in hindsight, but at the time for our long-term growth, yeah, I think that's a big thing that a lot of seasoned investors, and like I listen to a lot of guys that are, further than me in investing, and a lot of them are like, yeah, I wish I got into bigger deals quicker. And I think that's fair for me to say.
Well, everybody wishes they had done something differently, but as long as you're taking action, you're doing something to reach your goals, then it's not that bad.
And that's the action piece too. For me, had we taken that action to jump into a bigger deal quicker, we would have just learned how to make better money or do those more efficiently or do a larger volume of those a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Now we have just a few of them under our belt. We know how to execute on them, but we would have been maybe 2 or 3 years ahead.
Yeah, but the thing is about the bigger deals, it takes a completely different mindset. And the reason that I'm saying that is because I'm just starting to get into something a little bit bigger, like an 11 unit that we actually just, we waived conditions on it yesterday.
Just firmed up?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. So this is the biggest deal that I've ever done. And then, I still have part of me still has that mindset of let's recoup all the money, do it as fast as possible, refi, all that. But every time I talk to someone who owns a big portfolio of buildings, they're like, you can't really think like that. It's more a long-term play. Yeah. Your money's going to stay in the deal. You're going to get a really good return, but you're not going to get it really fast.
Yeah. And I think that some of us have that shift in expectations a little bit quicker. And I think, man, we've been spoiled the last 5 years.
Oh yeah.
Spoiled. Yeah. Us investors out there, I've been trying to tell new people that are coming to me or people that I've done some deals with in the past few years that are ready to come back and, maybe pick up some more. It's like, guys, let's temper expectations here because those full juicy burrs, nay. Those are not.
So what are you telling people now? Because that was the expectation for a long time, like you just said.
Yeah.
And now people that are just jumping into the market, if that's their expectation, how are you dealing with that?
You're not going to get that. Those deals do not exist anymore because the market is not appreciating enough for you to refinance at a high enough value to get all your money back.
Unless you buy at a huge discount.
And if
could happen.
It could happen, but I don't know. I mean, I got wholesalers, I got off-market deals, I got on-market deals. The prices aren't there. Mm-hmm. And what we're telling people is the affordability is going to get pinched.
Yeah.
The prices are not going to come down as much as interest rates are going to go up in the short term. But long-term, interest rates are going to do whatever they're going to do, but asset values are slowly going to creep up. I don't expect them to go up 30% a year like they had for a couple of years in Southern Ontario, but lock in an affordable price, buy with a margin of safety, and expect a 2 to 5 year turnaround as opposed to a 6 to 12 month turnaround.
Yeah.
Whether it's a small project or a big project, because straight up things are going to be more expensive. Financing, renovation costs, everything. It's going to take way longer than you expect it to, and the ARV within the next year or so isn't going to be as juicy as you want it to be.
Can you break down some of the numbers that you're seeing? I don't know if you've actively been looking with any investor clients for duplexes.
Always looking.
Yeah.
Always looking. Yeah. So we've had people pick up duplex conversion projects this year, triplexes, fourplexes as well. We've offloaded a few for some clients as well. Nice stuff sells really quickly in my market. If it's good condition, good location, or good rents, or a combination of those three, whether it's a single family home or a multi, it's gone.
So why don't we talk about a duplex specifically? Because I feel like there would be a lot of people that are into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So what are you picking them up for with clients? What's the rental budget? And what's the ARV right now?
So if you want a middle of the pack turnkey duplex, when I say middle of the pack, I mean not massive. Let's say 2 or 3 bedrooms upstairs, 1 or 2 bedrooms downstairs.
Turnkey,
vacant or current market rents, you're probably around $850.
Mm-hmm.
You want a really nice duplex, you're closer to $950. That's 3 bedroom up, walkout basement, big lot that you can put an ADU.
And these are legal duplexes.
These are legal.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm going to pick up a property just to convert it into a legal duplex, I'm going to want it under $750, and I'm going to want to drop about $150 into it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to want to be into it ideally 850, and that's very possible. But more likely if I'm, borrowing money for renovations, or if I have a good contingency budget, then I got about 25 to 30K in kind of soft cost built into that. For our experience guys, like if we're going to go in and do one, I'm going to go buy a piece of junk, high sixes, low sevens, and I'm going to do it all. But I'm going to probably spend anywhere from 150 to 200K to do it.
This is Don Chan, mortgage agent with Pineapple Financial. Today, I want to introduce you to a special mortgage product called Readvanceable Mortgage. The special feature about this product is that as you pay down the principal portion, it auto converts into a line of credit. And this allows you a cost-effective way to access the equity in your home without having to go through a refinance or incur high legal and penalty costs. I would love to connect with you for all your mortgage-related questions. You can reach me at 647-961-3281, or you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at The Mortgage Don.
Right. And then are you getting appraised at 950 at that point?
Your ARVs, I telling people, look, expect 900. You should get 950 to $1 million, but expect 900 because appraisers are being very cautious right now.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them.
So with those numbers, it's not a perfect BRRRR. You're not
Nope.
getting all your money back. You're going to get some of it back.
Yep.
So would it be better, you think, at this point to just buy that finished product?
A lot of people are doing that, but that's why those ones are selling quick. I can buy a finished product at 850 to 9. If I got 20% down, I'm making $150, $200 on that.
And just hold it.
Just hold it.
Yeah.
Just hold it. Those sold for 1.1 million like a year and a half ago. I'm not saying that they're going to get back up there right away. The lending was cheaper. The landscape was different, but I can break even or make a couple bucks on that, and it's brand new. And if they'd recently done the renovation to convert that lower level is not on rent control. So they have a little bit more flexibility to control their income, moving forward.
What kind of rents would you expect at that like turnkey 950 duplex?
Either way you split it, 4,500 is kind of where it's got to be. And that's very realistic.
And is that plus like hydro, or is that they're splitting the utilities generally?
Typically they pay their own hydro. You're paying water and gas. Put a clause in there that says if the water and gas bill is over a couple $100 a month, that they're going to take their portion of it. But you're a 3-bedroom upstairs, you're getting 2,500 all day. You get 2-bedroom in the basement, $2,000 all day.
Yeah.
So that's your 4,500 right there.
And that will still cash flow at the 950.
You're about $100 a month. If they're separately metered, if other things that you can do, and this is where I think investors really get split in hairs is, oh, well, if I count for my vacancies, my maintenance, my grass and my snow, okay, well, now I'm out a couple $100 a month. I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like if you want to pay people to do everything for you, then this is going to look less attractive. But a lot of my investors, like young people that are house hacking and then converting to a duplex conversion, I love that. Like buying your first place where you can rent out a portion of it and then eventually make it legal to either sell it for a bigger profit or make it legal and keep it forever. Like, guys, the money is in the holds. Like, that's where I've made the majority of my wealth. The longer I hold my properties, the more profitable they are for me. And the straight up duplexes I need a really dirty purchase price right now, or I need something that's pretty much turnkey that I can get market rents. Those are kind of my two target deals.
And the cool thing about house hacking is you can put a lot less down. You don't need to put 20% down generally.
I can go 5 down and rent out to a few friends or a colleague or my sister or cousin, whatever. Or I can just go get another tenant that's not a complete weirdo to just go share the living space with. Like, I think people have been spoiled lately. And they don't realize how powerful just getting something at a somewhat of an affordable price could actually be for them long term, because they see what it looks like on paper right now. And I think that that's really short-sighted. And I think that that's a big reason why a lot of young people are struggling to buy right now.
Yeah. What's your plan moving forward? Are you going to, like, let's say in the next year, 2 years, are you going to continue to buy real estate? Are you, duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, or do you have a different plan?
Time to move up. It's time to move up. Yep. So we've wrapped up a few projects where we're starting an ADU on one of our properties now. And I think the model for us is, if there is good acquisitions out there, we're going to buy. In our market, there's still lots of opportunity in Waterloo region. Little tidbit for anybody that's listening: if you don't know Waterloo region at all, go on Google, look up the LRT route. It's the light rail transit route that all the locals were bitching about forever because we got to pay for it now. And it took way too long and cost way too much money, but I love it because anywhere within 1 kilometer radius of any of those stops, it's just money. It's just go buy something within a kilometer distance of it. That's like buying a property within a kilometer of a subway stop in downtown Toronto. Like, there lots of good lots. They're going to all redevelop around there. So there's going to be commercial, residential, mixed use. All the redevelopment is going to be along this. So I've done some videos on this too, but like, go take a peek if you guys are curious. For us, we're going to go bigger. So I'm interested in redeveloping. That's kind of maybe 5-10 years from now. We got a few properties that we own that are, very possible to redevelop in the coming, 5-10 years. But I'm looking for, large multis. They don't grow on trees. They are very rare. We're looking for large multis that we can burr. And those are just a higher scale of the projects that we've already done. The 3, 4, and 5 unit buildings that we've already done. All right, we can go apply similar models to larger properties. We're building up our war chest. We're stacking cash from selling real estate and from our investment properties that we already own. Refis that have come in or projects that we've wrapped up and refis have come in the last few years. Let's keep that cash sitting ready to buy. And then if there's some good large multi deals that come up, we're ready.
You don't sound scared. A lot of people are scared right now. Just in general, if you ask people, like, they're worried about the rates, about their portfolios, cash flow and all that, but you don't sound like you're worried about that.
That's taken some time to get to this point. So honestly, like, I get why people are scared.
Yeah.
For me, it's if shit hits the fan, then I need to just focus on making more money so I can go pay all my bills. But our portfolio is in a healthy position now that even if we did nothing for the next 5 years, we're sitting pretty. So I think it's much easier for somebody in my position to feel more relaxed because my worst case scenario, I'm pretty fortunate. We've put ourselves in that position, but I feel very fortunate. And so if we don't go out and acquire more, as long as we don't make some, unforeseen act of God problem happen with any of our properties, we're smooth chilling. But I think that people should be very cautious. I think people should be worried. I think you should operate with a big margin of safety right now, especially if you're not experienced, because a lot of people, if you make 1 or 2 bad moves with a real estate deal, you're in some real trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you talked a little bit earlier about targeting a large multi. How large are you going?
Depends on how big my war chest is. Ideally, I think for me and my team, like me and Matt really want to grow with our network. And I think a lot of people get caught up in, how big of a chunk they're going to get out of the deal, exactly how much money they're going to make in the deal, especially when they're partnering. But like, we've been really lucky. Me and Matt as a partnership have done really well for ourselves. We have a very good understanding of the value that we bring. And we have a really good understanding of what type of people we need to be partnering with. And ideally, I would love to be able to take down 20, 30, 40 unit building. Those don't grow on trees. They are very rare in our market and they sell at a premium because they're so rare in Waterloo region. But if we have enough to take that down, great. Let's go buy the biggest property we can comfortably afford. And if, we do get that under contract, awesome. Are there people that we've done deals with in our network that want to get a piece of this? Because as soon as we start sharing the wealth, then all of a sudden our network continues to grow. Mm-hmm. We help, some of our past clients or some of our current clients get in on a bigger deal. All of a sudden their mindset starts shifting to, I don't need to just do duplexes or flips or small multis. I could do these bigger deals. Or, maybe they realize, I actually don't like having my hands on the deal. I'd rather just lend privately.
Yeah.
That's a better fit for me.
Yeah.
And so we've been really fortunate that we have done some great deals with clients and for clients, and to have a big enough pie that we can bring them to, hey, do you want a piece? Like, that would be really cool. Mm-hmm. And honestly, helps take a little bit of risk away from us, helps us provide value and income to somebody else. Win-win, in my opinion.
For sure. We were also talking about the LRT in Kitchener and that being like a really good place to invest.
Yeah.
I don't know Kitchener at all, really. So what would be like good pockets for people to explore? What would be pockets to kind of stay away from as an investor? Just getting your take on that.
Pockets to stay away from as an investor. I think this is a common misconception. Like, I grew up in downtown Kitchener and it was rough. I live in downtown Kitchener now. Like, it's downtown, but it's fine. There's probably about 5 blocks in all of Kitchener and Waterloo that I'd be like, hey, stay away from. And then maybe in Cambridge, probably about 5 or 6 blocks that you're like, yeah, you probably don't want to be there. It's not worth the problem.
Why? Why do you say that?
Just lower income housing, no investments, location not good enough for the type of tenant that you're going to be getting there.
Is it dangerous to walk around at night?
No. No, like Victoria Park, when I was growing up in downtown Kitchener, Victoria Park, parents were like, don't go through Victoria Park at night. Now it's like, you don't have to be worried. There's very low violent crime in Waterloo region. Yeah, there's a little bit of drugs in some of the pockets, but it's 600,000-700,000 people live there. It's getting to be a big city. And so I think that If you want to go into big multi-unit spaces, you're going to be in the rougher areas. That's where the apartment buildings are in Waterloo region, is because when they were building those areas in the 70s and 80s, that's where people could afford to live.
Yeah.
But if you want, premium 4-unit properties, those are all over the place. If I'm looking for value add, if I'm looking for duplex conversions, if I'm looking for smaller multis, East Ward, downtown Kitchener, Laurentian, Country Hills, these are all in Kitchener. Rosemount, also in Kitchener. These are all midtown locations. If I'm going Waterloo, I'm going uptown Waterloo, maybe Westvale, maybe North Lake as well, but there's some student rentals up in there. And then out in Cambridge, Hespeler, and pretty much anywhere in Galt. As long as we're not too south of the 401, you can't lose.
Yeah. And it's good because every time somebody comes on here, they always share the successes and everything. And then recently I spoke to someone who said, I wish people would talk more about their failures or their challenges.
Oh, we'd have to do a whole other episode.
Why don't we touch on that a little bit? Let's let people know, because I think a lot of people are going through challenges right now for various reasons.
Yeah.
Let's share some of yours.
Okay, straight up, all your problems are your own fault. Say that to yourself out loud if you're listening to this episode. All your problems are your own fault. Accept that you are the cause of these problems one way or another, because you're going to have to take responsibility for it anyway. That's hard. Easier said than done. But I think for me, some big problems early in my career were setting too high of expectations, because I do really want to push myself. I want to see how far Zack can get in his life. I want a big life. I don't want a complicated life, but I want a big life. I want to see the world. I want to do things. And I think I have so much potential as a person in this world that I can do that and help a lot of people. So you put a lot of pressure on yourself. And so some problems for myself are just like never shutting down, burning out, right? Trying to do too much. And like for me specifically, getting into a construction business, getting into investing full time, getting into sales full time, and then trying to have a family on top of that, you don't. Mm-hmm. Pick one thing personally and one thing professionally, and really focus and get really good on that. And so for me right now, servicing my clients and helping my clients invest in real estate full time is my number one thing. On top of that, I have a team that already helps me with my investments. My partner, Matt, my other partners, Kevin and Nick, they take on a lot of that responsibility as well. And we don't have to actively do it all. But when you first start in the business, doing a little bit of everything will help. So if you have a full-time job and you're going to invest, figure out, do I want to have my hands dirty? Do I want to do this hard physical labor? Do I want to GC this project? And just understand that the less things you want to do, the more you're going to have to pay for. You still have to take responsibility for it, but you will not physically have that time spent to actually do it.
Yeah.
And do not underestimate how valuable your time is. Even if you're only out there working for $15 an hour, the time where you can clearly think and not have stress is invaluable. So I will do everything I can to avoid things that stress me out for no value. I'll take stress for clients to get a deal done. I'll take stress to help clients set themselves up to get a good investment property and start a good base. I'll take those things on, but other things I just no, that's not worth my time because I need to focus on X, Y, Z. Mm-hmm. So big challenges were I'm not a detail guy. General concept makes sense to me. Numbers make sense to me. Done. Moving on. Let's take action. I don't look at all the specific nitty-gritty details because I know, generally speaking, this is going to make sense in the long run. I'm a long-run person, so I'm willing to accept short-term variances. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of my problems have just stemmed from you get in your own head. You get master yourself, and that's something that I've had to really take a step back. And as a young guy, same age, but as younger salespeople and younger investors, it doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter what you know. If you go and take action, you can figure it out.
Yeah.
So people who feel like they're stuck or they feel like they have problems, pick up the freaking phone, call somebody that has done it before. And if they don't give you an answer that makes sense, you call the next person. The next call is the next answer, mm-hmm. whatever it is, whatever the problem is. Yeah. And whether you're dealing with your job, your career, your family, or your real estate investments, all you are is a problem solver.
Yeah.
So if I don't know the answer or my answer is not working, I will call, message, email, whoever until I get an answer that makes sense for my situation, because there is an answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And then when you do call that person and they give you an answer, sometimes you just feel well, I thought my problems were big, but this person's this person's dealing with a lot more than I am, right?
Yeah, and it gives you perspective, but just there's always a way. I think that that's the one thing I've learned in real estate was I would have never thought about it like that. There's always a way to solve a problem.
Yeah.
Always.
No matter how big the problem might be, there's always a way.
Always.
Yeah. So I appreciate that you were talking about some of the challenges and all that. Let's talk a bit about your goals. What are you working towards? Do you have like a certain objective with your portfolio, a certain thing you're trying to reach, certain number?
That's a good question. No, I don't. I think I used to put on our portfolio, we used to have like really strict goals. And then after COVID and after the market shifted so much and after the interest rates changed so quickly, we kind of realized we're like, well, we're pushing for deals to meet our goals, whether they were the perfect deal or not. And I was like, you know what? We did really well. We got really lucky. You know, we were very fortunate to be profitable on all of our projects. But I think it kind of helped us lose perspective on like, you know, we're doing this because we want to build long-term wealth for us and our families. So, you know, let's focus on making sure we protect just as much as we are focusing on growing. And so like long-term goals, I'd love to get into larger multis. I think there's a ton of opportunity to be profitable and build wealth there. I think there's a ton of opportunity in the construction space as well. So we'll continue to try and service, you know, our clients in there and provide value with that business. And just like step by step, I think people get really caught up on like really big jumps in their goals. Like, oh, you made 100K last year. Okay, well, I'm going to make 500 next year. That's an insane jump. Like you're 5xing your income. That's huge. I hope you do it, but you know, maybe we take a baby step. And my partner, Matt's actually really good for that. It's just like logical step after logical step after logical step. If I get dreaming and thinking big, I'm like, oh man, we're going to do all this crazy big stuff. And without even realizing like the practicality behind it. So goals for us, get into a big multi-unit, build the construction business, you know, continue to service our sales business. We're not really planning on growing that as like a volume. Like, hey, we want to do 100 transactions, 200 transactions. I'd much rather do 50 or 60 a year and actually get to work with my clients like face to face instead of building a big team. That's just the style that we like and the model that makes sense for our business. So keep that going. And then, you know, if the big multi-units don't work out, let's start redeveloping. There's a lot of room for that in KW. A lot of room for that in KW. It's very expensive. It's very time consuming. It's very difficult to do that successfully, but like long term, that'd be really cool.
Yeah. So you guys are offering construction services in KW? Like if somebody has a rental project, something like that, you have a team that'll do that?
That is our wheelhouse. So funny. The way that Matt explained it to me when I was doing my first construction project, my first duplex conversion, he's like, you want an 8 out of 10 for a 7 out of 10 price. And I was like, okay, you don't want a 10 out of 10 for your rental properties. Like, that's just too nice. You're not going to get your money back. You're going to spend too much for the quality of the product. You have a great quality product, but it won't give you the income to justify it. And so for our investors, it's like an 8 out of 10 product for a 7 out of 10 price. That's kind of where you want to be. Profitable enough that the construction business can make a little bit of money, but also makes sense for the investor. We do primary residence too. Like if our clients say, hey, we want to reno our primary home, yeah, talk to our guys. They'll do that. But a lot of ADUs, a lot of additions, a lot of basement suites for duplexes, and then everything else in between. But primarily that is like we want to get into the garden suites, the ADUs, and like the investors because they think the same way that we do.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to justify a $400,000 renovation on a family home that you only spent $700 or $800,000 for. But that's how expensive renovations are.
Yeah, crazy expensive.
It's crazy expensive. Yeah. And plus when you're working with homeowners, they're very emotional people. You've worked with people buying and selling properties and doing projects. So like it's more of an emotional decision and there's a big price tag attached. You know, the scenarios sometimes can be tricky. Yeah. So, you know, we have lots of clients that we've, you know, hey, we'll help them buy the duplex. And before they even firm up on their purchase, they already got a hard quote from our construction team. So they can price in how much I should actually be paying for this property because they already know how much it's going to cost to renovate it. And that's huge value because a lot of people that don't have experience in that, they're like, well, you say it's going to cost $100,000, but like I haven't gotten any quotes. Okay, no problem. Call Kevin. He'll come and quote it right now for you. You'll have an official quote ASAP, and then you can make a decision on an offer there.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we were talking about this a little bit earlier, but the importance of being like a specialist in a certain area. So which areas are you focusing on? We only service clients in Kitchener, Waterloo, and Cambridge. You know, a lot of friends and family and client referrals have, unfortunately, Waterloo region has appreciated really well. But unfortunately for people trying to get in, they've been forced out. So, you know, your Stratfords, your Woodstocks, your Brantfords, some of those surrounding markets, we know well. They're smaller. They're fairly simple to understand. So we'll do a handful of deals out there a year. But our bread and butter is Kitchener, Waterloo, and Cambridge. That's where 90% of our business is. Are you talking about as a realtor or as on the construction side?
Both.
Okay.
There's a lot of bleeders. Same with Guelph. I did my undergrad in Guelph. We've had properties there as well. Like we do a couple deals a year there. Yeah. It's but primarily Kitchener, Waterloo, and Cambridge.
So basically, you as a realtor will go show a property to an investor, and then you can say, well, as part of this, I can bring in a construction crew to quote you on the work, so you have an idea before you move forward and whatever else.
Yeah, and for and like our target right now is newer to intermediate level investors. Typically, people who are past that intermediate stage, they have 3, 4, 5 properties. They got more than that. They don't need me as much as somebody who's just getting started. They already have a team or a crew or a guy. I'm happy to take their business if they want to give it to me, but they don't need me nearly as much as I can provide value to somebody who's a little bit newer. Yeah. And if I can provide them, one, I can tell you pretty much on the spot if this is going to be a good deal or not, because I've done dozens of those. 2, if you need contacts to help you execute a project, great. Go call Kevin and his team at King Street Construction. They will take care of you. They're honest and they do a good job. That's why they're our partners. And they can be the ones that help set you up for those success for that first 2, 3, 4 properties. And honestly, if they execute well on 1 or 2 properties, like they're ready to keep growing in 3 to 5 years. Yep. And I'm still going to be in business. I'm going to be in business in Waterloo region for 20 years. Mm-hmm. I'm 32 now. By the time I'm 50, I expect I'm winding down. And if I'm not, my wife is forcing me to, and I expect to, but I think that that's big value. And there's a natural progression. We were doing so much of our own projects. That's like, okay, we have to continually find new contractors, or we just hire 1 or 2 good ones and now they're in-house. Yeah. They're ours.
Yeah. Awesome. That's great. I love what you're doing, and I can definitely see you winding down by 50, probably even before then. Do you feel like there's any like final messages or anything we didn't touch on that you think is important to share?
I think that just like investors and homeowners just really need to think ahead. And if you guys know you're not good at thinking ahead, or there's too many unknowns, talk to somebody that has experience. My misconception in this business is that the slimy realtor, the slimy, used car salesman kind of model. And there's a fair amount of those people out there. Real estate gets a reputation for a reason, but I was shocked at how many people, especially on the investing side, actually just want to help you and see you succeed. Mm-hmm. I go to events and there's like normal people that you would not even know that have built awesome portfolios and businesses because they've just taken it one step at a time. They worked with other people that, could execute what they needed, and just like, don't be afraid to go out and meet those people and ask questions, and like, get off your ass and go do it, because there is no rhyme or reason. There's no secret sauce. There is no special skill you need. You literally just need to plan a little bit ahead and be able to make a phone call and have conversations with people. If you're not good at that, get a partner who is, or learn those skills yourself. Mm-hmm. And like, you will be amazed at how far you could go.
Yeah. Just
go and do it, baby.
100%. To finish things off, how do people reach you if they want to get in touch?
I'm a big Instagram guy, at Phipps Brittain Real Estate. Matt, little SOB, got his name first because Brittain Phipps just kind of sounded stupid. So Phipps Brittain, PHIPPS, and our stuff will come up on Instagram or on Google. We got a website. All my contact information's there. Send us a follow, a DM. Like, I manage that myself. Like, I like interacting with my people. I like being the first person that somebody gets in touch with. I don't, me and Derek do all that stuff, but like, we work as a team. So Instagram's the easiest. We do a lot of stuff on YouTube as well. And so like, hit us in the comments. Like, I'm an open book. I just showed 2 guys from downtown Toronto. They were like 25. They're selling cars, and they found my stuff on YouTube and like, yeah, we want to invest in real estate. I was like, okay, I'm going to send you everything you need beforehand. If this makes sense, give me 3 hours of your time. I'll tour you the whole city. I'll show you a couple deals that make sense for your profile. If that works for you, great. Then maybe we can start offering on deals. If not, then at least you know exactly what you have here. Mm-hmm. And like, we've done a ton of that, and it's, we build the right relationship. They know that we're legit.
Awesome. Cool. Zach, thanks for coming. I love the energy. I love the message that you shared today. And we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, it's awesome, George. Thanks, man.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Well Off Podcast. If you enjoy the show, then I'd really appreciate if you left us a review on iTunes and let us know your thoughts. In order for us to get a larger audience, it's really important to have reviews, so your support is extremely appreciated. And also, don't forget to share the podcast with your friends and family. Until next time, I'm George Almasri. Have a great day.